My wife says that I sleep like a princess. Earplugs, eye mask, 7 pillows, the whole fairy tale. I wish I could sleep like my wife sleeps. Sleep and I just have a fickle thing going on, but I finally found a reason to bring back an old design as a pair of nightstands that I think have the hidden features that might actually allow me to get a better night's sleep. Because every princess needs a place to put their stuff, and my queen, and she has declared that the floor is no longer suitable for royal storage. Let's get into it. Today we're cooking with curves, and like every fine recipe, starting with the finest ingredients, wood, and something to bend it around. There's just something satisfying about forms. I hate building them, but once they're together, they're tidy. They tickle my OCD in all the right places. Okay, enough about my places and how they tickle. Let's bend some wood. Wood, if you think about it, doesn't bend very well. It's kind of rigid. But it will conform to the shape that you bend it around. This is called bent lamination. While you can use layers of solid wood, one more economical way to go about this is to use wiggle board. Bendy, bendy plywood, bending ply, bending wood. I really like to think of it as the Gumby of plywood. I've always wondered what makes this bend. I have no idea, but it's cool and it's a cheap way to fill up the core of this bent structure. And then we'll take that thinly sliced veneer or laminations and skin either side of this core to look like wood. Let's get into it and I'll tell you all about the process while I do it. Cool, let's bend some wood. Alright, lamination 1 of 6. The time that I have used ratchet straps around a form like this, it was with hardwood. With this floppy stuff, the benefit of actually using thicker hardwood strips is they kind of want to remain flat. They're rigid. So they're producing their own tension pushing out, which naturally kind of wants to keep the space between the layers tight. The floppy stuff may not do that. The very next day. All right, let's see if I messed anything up. Wasn't that fun? I kick myself almost every day for making this my thing. Laminations, I kind of dread them, to be honest. They are just so much work and so much can go wrong at any moment. And the satisfaction at the end of a project is worth every single bit of the frustration along the way. So I'm going to go ahead and do it 6 more times. Number 1, number 2. Day 3. New shirt, same pants. All right, there's 3. We got 3 left to go, but you're probably thinking, what are we doing exactly? Well, good news. With these 3, we have enough to move forward with one of the nightstands. Step 1 is going to be to join all 3 of these together so we get the correct depth for a nightstand. And as we get into the process, I'll let voiceover Nick let you know why this is kind of the wrong way to go about it. And one of my main reasons why I don't know if this is going to work. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? Let's do this. Creating a straight, clean edge is always kind of tricky. I ended up using the guide rail attachment on the router as sort of an outrigger to keep the router a little more stable and to ensure that the cut was vertical, as I used the form as my straight edge reference and an upcut spiral bit from Bits and Bits, links in the description, to create a clean, straight edge. This totally could have been done other ways, and I would have picked the joiner, but I've found that running laminations across the grain on that machine is just asking for trouble and usually results in a chewed up, torn out edge. We can now use that straight reference edge to rip the sections down to their final width. And since somebody usually yells at me right here, camera angles are deceiving. The depth of these is going to be about 16 inches, and rather than laying up the whole big curved case at once, I made the decision to instead make it in sections and join those sections together. The laminations were a bit over length, so I'll need to trim them down. But I was having difficulty figuring out how to cut consistent square ends on the laminations to make sure I was lining up each curve correctly when joining the sections together, as it'd be easy to get them together a little wacky and then we'd have to trash the whole thing and start all over. I found that a quick scribe while the lamination was on the form did a nice job of referencing, and then I was then able to eyeball the scribe cut using my miter saw. And we'll go ahead and clean up the slight discrepancy a little later on once the drawer box is installed, after gluing up the sections and aligning them with dominoes. I feel like I'm always trying something new. The rule of compounding has always served me well, and 1% better or cleaner, smoother, more efficient on each project really adds up over time. Trying something new, especially with a potential audience that is not afraid to roast me in the comments, can add a level of pressure to any build, and sometimes it does go wrong. Unfortunately, you're going to have to grab your sunscreen and save those sick burns, because the sectioning of the case using this method turned out great, and I definitely recommend breaking a big bend into more manageable chunks, particularly if working without the vacuum bag. I loved how easy this was, and I'm feeling pretty gangster about it. So gangster, in fact, that I plan to drop an album inspired by the experience. Link below. Alright then, that was a little technical. You may be wondering, where are we and what the hell are we building? I forget. You know, you're not alone. Me too. And this is going to start making a lot of sense here in a minute, but as you can see, this is going to make, at this point, a very, very shitty nightstand. It's going to spill every glass of water, so I think right now I'm going to go ahead and put a base on this. It's going to look a little something like this. This one's upside down. Makes sense. I have some interesting things planned for this new ShotBot CNC, but in getting to know the machine, I was surprised at how many applications it was useful to add a little bit of automation into the workflow. Even for things as simple as these leg templates. With the leg shaped, we can intersect the legs to form the base, and I've got something very nerdy planned for this after joining these components with a crosslap. Damn it, guys. I always make things so much harder than they need to be. So we need to figure out how to carve a 2D curved plane through the 3D cross base. Part of the learning curve for the CNC has been work holding. To carve the case intersection in the base, a vacuum hold down reference worked well to index the feet of the cross base while it was carved. It wasn't perfect, but the solution worked well enough for this time. I did have a little bit of tear out, and I'm still getting to understand the vast world of different bits, speeds, feeds, and all the other technicals of the cutting tools. I am kind of a techie gearhead though. I've actually really been enjoying learning and deep diving into a new subject. 3D structure, 2D cut plane. What a sick base. I think I'll probably use this everywhere, on everything, from now until the end of time. I'm just having a little nerd boner over here. Gotta line up the center because this is a parabolic curve. Obviously, we'll need to attach these. I'll probably just come straight down through the centers. I'm thinking probably just a threaded insert and a bolt. This will be kind of dead space since it's curved on the interior of the nightstand. And this is why I made a third base, because I knew I was going to screw up along the way. Luckily, I haven't done a lot of that so far, but this is my attempt. And it grabbed it and it chucked it and it just ate the shit out of it. This will be a pot holder or something. I'm not going to put my pot in it like a plant. Okay, you know what I meant. That is the game, folks. Let's get on to the top and the interior of the case. And we're going to need to do something about this edge. Yuck. There's a few ways to go about this. I could just put some veneer on as edge banding, but no matter what I do, the grain is going to be wrong. So I think I'm going to quit trying to figure out the easy way to do it, and I'll just laminate a few more sheets so that I can bend those over the bending form, and I'll actually have like kind of a grain match all the way around the front that follows the curve instead of trying to put something on that has grain all vertically or do a sunburst pattern around the edge. I'm overcomplicating shit as usual. I'm just going to bend some wood and we'll get that on the front. Proper grain orientation is definitely something that keeps me up most nights. It's a very important thing. You know, very important if you have nothing actually important in life and suffer an anxious overachiever personality type, or if you're an anxious avoidant and distracting your mind from the actual important things that you should be focusing on. But that is neither here nor there, and not the only thing keeping me up at night. You know what keeps me up at night? I'm glad you asked. It's sweat. Sweat keeps me up at night. Temperature regulation is so important to sleeping like a princess, but that beauty rest has been tough to get as we get into these warmer months. See, we installed these solar panels and it turns out converting sunlight is really stupid and inefficient, and all those rays that don't make energy make heat. This means our bedroom is soon to heat up faster than 2 kittens in a wool sock. If your bedroom, or your shop, turns into an oven during the summer, maybe it also freezes you out in the winter. Your problems can be solved with one simple pump, a heat pump, and I recommend Mr. Cool. I installed Mr. Cool DIY ductless mini split last year in my shop, and it's been fantastic. One might say the experience has been really cool. Sorry about that. It's super quiet, incredibly efficient, and honestly, it's the easiest HVAC install I've ever done. Also the only, but it was really easy, mainly thanks to the pre-charged coolant lines with the quick connect fittings. It was such a good experience, I just had to put another one in my bedroom. Whether it's your workspace or where you sleep, you deserve to be comfortable. The coolest part is you can control it right from your phone with their app without having to get out of the bed or even be in the shop. It's a heat pump, so you're covered year-round, heating and cooling efficiently 12 months out of the year. Plus, it's Energy Star certified, and heat pumps are so much more efficient, which means it should save you some money too. If you're tired of swimming through your sweat all summer long or piling on blankets in the winter, this is genuinely worth checking out. Click the link below and get yourself comfortable today. Thanks, Mr. Cool, for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now, back to this hot little pair of nightstands. I'm scared of heights. To make a sturdy frame, the Panto router is a great tool for joining the butts, using integrated, or in this case floating, tenons. A 5/16 inch bit is perfect for 6mm dominoes, and I like this workflow versus the domino, as you can bring the workpiece down to reference it on the table for many repeat cuts. Sometimes I go through a project and I'm really diligent about getting the 3D model all honed in. I've got a plan all the way through it. Stuff just runs smoother. Sometimes I decide, why do what works? I think I'll just go by the seat of my pants and see how it goes. Well, how it goes is, it's just kind of a pain in the ass every time, and I should learn by now. So I've got this upper stretcher in. I'm gonna have the dust shelf that the drawer will ride on. But obviously the drawer can't register against these curved sides, right? So I think what I'm gonna do is take a block here and then just cut this angle out of it, which happens to be 4.5 degrees. In case you were wondering, you don't need to know that. That'll give a vertical surface for the drawer to ride in, and a large surface area that will be handy when we go to join all of this together. Part of piss poor planning prescribes pretentious, prolonged pontification, poorly packaged as profound process. Because I don't love the edge of these stretchers, front look a little more cohesive, I stack and laminate it. How do I attach this to the case? Fasten from the outside in, can't glue it in, screw it, dado, domino, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. I don't know. This is all gonna be a pain in the ass, and I'm gonna try to make it look easy. You know, this was the plan all along. Why did I not spend more time designing this? But you know, you live, you learn. Okay, now I'm rambling. I'm gonna say goodbye. I mean, don't leave. We're gonna go over there. Remember the trimming of the case I was mentioning? Yeah, me neither. Now that the rigid drawer frame is in place, I can use that as reference to flush up the long bits of the laminations by using my new OF 1400 Festool router, giving Trim Router a whole new level of sex appeal. Not sponsored, but I do believe in saying nice things to keep the free tools coming. I would never do anything that you wouldn't do. Before moving on to the interior of the case, there's one last detail that I need to add, and that's just that little strip of veneer at the entrance of the case where you'll see it as the door is opened. Now, you might be thinking, cool bowl, Nick. What the hell am I gonna put in there, bananas? This is in fact not just a banana hammock. We're gonna build, let's call it a box within this. And that'll be the functional element within the nightstand. The really interesting part of this is the hinge. But before we get there, let's go ahead and build a box. Now, I'm not exactly sure where this box needs to be. So I've made a little template to slide into place, and that's going to inform the proper dimensions and placement of all of the inner elements. I don't know about you, but I cannot wait to see all the stuff that will go inside that box. And with that, ain't nothing to it but to make a drawer. So these drawer boxes, I've chosen a beautifully plain chunk of cherry that I can slice up into smaller bits of plain cherry that will become above average drawers. Touch it. Just real quick. Just a little bit. Just for a second. Just to see how it feels. Small bits of cherry made, we can now join these into drawer boxes. In drawer making, there's a lot of fuss over the hand-cut dovetail. What's the pitch of the tails? 1 to 7, 1 to 8? How small are your pins? Ooh, 0 entry? Hot damn, leave some ladies for the rest of us, playa. Well, here's the end-all dovetail. I figured it out, and it is a vertical 0-degree tail. Mic drop. And that is a very dumb joke that only 5 of you will find entertaining. I think I'm really starting to understand this whole viral video thing, guys. You might wonder, why not regular dovetails? Well, that is because I am lazy, and I am so over this project because I have other things to build from actually paying customers. And while this one puts out, she technically does also pay, but would appreciate if I brought in some money. So I can cut corners on my own shit, okay? Step off as we mosey on over to cut the substrate of the doors and drawer faces on the CNC. People usually ask me why I use whichever adhesive I've used. And for this, I chose urea formaldehyde because it's rigid and I welcome the sweet release of death by carcinogenic adhesives. This rigid glue sets and does not move, so when I need to offset the original curve from the form for doors and drawer fronts, I can easily cut them out on the CNC and know that they will fit perfectly with perfect gaps. I mean, in theory. Here, edge banding is then applied to hide the plywood core before moving on to veneering the doors and drawer faces. A slip match or sequential ordering of the veneers was chosen as a pattern. This is a veneer layup that I've typically avoided in the past because it reminds me of cheap, shitty veneered panels from the 90s, but Philip Morley sure seems to like slip matches and uses them on everything, and I want to be just like him when I get really, really, really old like him. Rather than leaving the drawer frame edges exposed, I laminated an edge to fit and to visually match the curved edge of the case we made earlier. Details matter. The ones you can see matter more, and the details customers appreciate and are willing to pay for matter the most. Alright, this is where I probably should have spent a little more time in design when I was in concept mode. I need to add some pulls to this, and I've always liked the challenge of pulls. Like putting a knob, anybody can do that. And knobs, in my opinion, very rarely complement a piece. They may work as ornamentation, and in some cases that is totally appropriate, but I do kind of think it makes it look kitchen cabinety. No shade. Just not for this piece. I want to scoop out the front of these in sort of a half moon and then have a lip behind that cutout, but I can't come all the way through. I want to leave maybe a 1/4 inch or 3/16 as like a backing disc at the back so you can't actually see into the cabinet. Don't talk about it, be about it. Now doors don't door without hinge. And like children, hinges should work tirelessly and never be seen. There's only one hinge for this job, Soss Invisible Hinges. These are pretty slick and a total pain in the ass to install unless you have a shaper origin. And I do, so they're not. And I hate to say I told you so, but door number 1 officially doors, because hinge. And I also wanted to hide some snacks in the nightstand because I'm always not sleeping and find myself hungry, so keeping a banana bedside is a sure way to achieve better sleep. That is how my brain works. Once more, we will Soss hinge it. The wing to the other side of the box will serve as the fixed attachment point for the front door. And keeping this front door shut will be achieved with magnets, which I probably could have installed a little more stealthy if I had done this before the veneering process. But you know what? Nobody's keeping tabs but me. And just like that, with the power of magnets, the door will now stick shut, you know, in case the place gets drafty. Well, we've about got all the parts together now, so the last step before finishing an assembly will be the tops. I decided to bring down the profile and cut a pocket on the underside of the top with this bad mamma jamma right here. Most tops sit, well, on top of the case, but I wasn't liking this stance looking at that upper stretcher of the drawer frame. Felt a little top heavy. It's at this stage in any build that things start to get a little overwhelming. You put it all together and then take it apart. So many parts. Tear it down and sand it, plane it, smooth it. 80 grit, 120 grit, 150, 180, 240. Then spray, sand, wait. It's an important part of the build. Important, but mindless. And I usually take this time to plug in and tune out. I let my mind wander. And while it wandered, I wondered, wait, wasn't I supposed to hide a banana in here somewhere for, late night snacking and or home defense? Right. Step 1, figure out how to get the door open. For this, I'll be using a push to open. God damn it, a push to open. And then, I think we're gonna need a place to hang the mount. And this sounds like a great place to once again use some magnets. And we've actually made it to the final assembly. Ironically, I have never owned a nightstand in my adult life. Despite building several beds, 2 of which for myself, all of the nightstands have gone to clients as commissions. One of these early commissions, when I first started woodworking back in 2018, was not actually a nightstand, but was intended to be a firewood container storage chest in a spinal surgeon's house. And I guess spinal surgery pays all right because they had just put in the most beautiful rift-sawn fumed white oak flooring on all 3 levels of their hillside mansion. To this day, I have never seen a floor that made me feel the way those floors did. So anyway, I was building several things for them, and this design, they decided to go in another direction. And I didn't end up making this chest for firewood. But I always loved the form of it. I loved the shape, I loved everything about it, and this design remained a sketch. Until now. Keep this on the low, but I gotta say, the queen was right. Using the floor for royal storage really does seem like a peasant mindset, and these nightstands fit for a high king. After mulling over this design for years, I'm so happy to have finally had the chance to build these. The parabolic curve is so pleasing, and that 3D carved base might just be my new spirit animal. While this was certainly a challenging build, I learned so much about veneer. I got to spend time focusing on my favorite things like grain direction, got comfortable with the operations of my machines, and most importantly, discovered the in-game dovetail and how to make a banana disappear. A giggity. The style really complements the bed without being too matchy, and Her Highness absolutely loves to have a place to keep her scepter at night. I truly think that being able to find important things in the dark will put my mind at ease and help me sleep better. They don't help with sweat though, and for that, remember to check out Mr. Cool. If you've learned something or simply enjoyed the work I put into this, well, thank you for taking the time to watch. If you're so inclined, please also consider subscribing. My name's Nick, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Nerdy Cool Shit. I'm just having a little nerd boner over here. Rawr, rawr, rawr. Touch it.